Hey restoration fans, if you're excited to see what has happened to this so far, then you've tuned into the right place. I got hold of this machine in February and I've done quite a bit of work to it since then. So it's time for a restoration diary, I guess you could say, and then plenty of more work will continue after. Enjoy.
I found this microchimbali. The machine had been forgotten for a long time and yet I decided that it was worth giving this machine a new lease of life. Little did I know this wasn't going to be a smooth journey. When it arrived, I had no idea what to expect. The eBay videos were vague. They had shown some of the patina and that there was a missing drip tray, but I had no idea how corroded the inside of the boiler was. And really I had no idea about the overall functionality of the machine. So as quickly as possible, I was hoping to find out whether this was beyond economical repair, and I felt for the price I managed to get it, I would share that at the end of this project. I was hoping that for the price I paid for it, the worst case scenario, I was going to end up with a quirky paperweight made in Milan. Whether or not that was a smart choice, I wanted to give this vision a go. What I discovered as I started to take away the packaging was a mixture of promise and disappointment. Bubble paint, some paint completely missing, scratches, missing parts, and then most devastatingly, broken parts. I wasn't expecting there to be shattered Bakelite from poor packaging, and that really set me back. A really important part was the Bakelite boiler cap. The power switch had also broken, but the boiler cap itself, I couldn't even find out if this boiler was going to hold steam pressure, because without an airtight seal with the boiler cap, there was no way of knowing. So that was a huge setback. I wasn't expecting it at all. First step, as always with these projects, is to strip it down and see what lies within. Unpicking decades of coffee and limescale neglect. This machine is at least 50 years old, and every piece of hardware has got a story to tell. Every seal that become brittle, just a reminder of how long it had been since anyone had cared for this machine, given it some attention so that it would work efficiently, work well. And then every step a bit closer to answering that important question: is this machine beyond repair? Is there hope for this project? I still didn't know how corroded the boiler would be from the inside. Unfortunately, what I discovered was far from good news. A cracked power switch and broken boiler cap was the least of my worries, I think. The boiler itself was pretty corroded and pitted, and without pressurizing it first, I had no idea of whether there was pinhole leaks or if the structure around the edges where the seals are would hold any water pressure and steam pressure. And there's no real way of knowing whether there was structural integrity to this corroded boiler. I went into detail in my previous video, the link's here, just how flawed this boiler really is.
Strangely, there's no mention of the microchimbali on La Cimbali's official website. No brochure, no archive, and no press release. Why is that?
Whilst a thin coating of limescale can work as effective barrier to more corrosion, it's still not as good as stainless steel or brass. So without the proper care, proper prevention, it's just a matter of time before this thing just melts away. But here we are, we've got this project on our hands, and for the price, I'm just hoping that it's a coffee machine that can function as a heritage piece, and hopefully a little better than a paperweight, but something that will be able to echo its capabilities when it was brand new. So rubber seals I was able to hunt down from an obscure website online, quite fairly priced for the amount of stock I'm imagining is being held for this model that very few people own. But the boiler cap, that was another issue altogether. It's an incredibly odd or rare thread to have a cap for. Try finding a high pressure screw cap with a female M25 by 1.5 pitch thread. I can tell you it's not that easy. In the end, I found a brass end cap from a plumbing application, and this fitted the same thread. It's so conductive that whilst it can hold pressure with some PTFE tape, it warms up incredibly quickly. You're not going to do a quick water fill up once you've let off some of the steam pressure like you might do with a Europiccola. you're going to need a cloth or a glove to undo that cap once the pressure has gone from the machine. So it's not a long-term solution. Thankfully, after stripping all the paint back, sanding and polishing, I was able to fit those new seals and then test whether or not there was going to be a leak from this old boiler. And then came this moment. All of the hard work, and I tell you, when it comes to polishing up that aluminium, there were some hours involved to sanding and polishing to get even this, what I would say is quite a dull shine up on this aluminium. All of these hours builds up to this point. Flick the switch, fill it up and pressurize it. Just find out whether or not we've got a bare working shell. And as I'm just waiting for this thing to warm up, it's just going through my head, like weeks of effort and research distilled into this one question: will it work, or is this all just a waste of time? And sure enough, there were no leaks. I was really surprised. I didn't expect it to just start building up to pressure and then gently trickle excess steam through the pressure valve on top. I had no idea it was going to be such a positive outcome. So that brings us up to where we are today. A working shell, proof of concept. The coffee it produces is pretty unpleasant. There still seems to be some more cleaning and flushing needed to purge all of the contaminants out of the boiler, just to really make sure that the internal surfaces and the seals are all clean. But the important thing is that this works, and this machine is able to have a second chance. It's not the end of the road for this Microchimbali. It's just maybe a new beginning. And with that in mind, there are plans for this machine. The Eagle Eye viewers will have seen already from the previous video that somehow I managed to get hold of a drip tray. The prices for a drip tray on their own were exorbitantly expensive. In the end, what was way more cost effective was to buy a donor machine, something that was way beyond economical repair. And with that, I was able to salvage all the parts that I was missing. So that is what we've got to look forward to. I'll give you a price breakdown in the next video, and I'll also be showing you all of the parts that I managed to get hold of that will complete this machine and bring it to a finished state. Whilst it won't be exactly the way it was when it left the factory, I'm going to be thrilled to see that finished result. And if you are interested, I thank you for your interest. I thank you for watching this far, and I better get back to work. Thanks for watching.